Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. 30 years ago, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology showed that all of Australia's hottest temperatures occurred before 1910. The hottest temperature recorded in New South Wales was 52.8 C at Burke in 1877. The hottest temperature in Victoria was 50.8 C at Mildura in 1906. Australia's hottest temperature was 53.1 C at Cloncurry in Queensland in 1889. And like Victoria, West Australia set the record temperature in January 1906. But all of these temperature records have been erased by the Bureau of Meteorology, and now they show much cooler temperatures at later dates as being the records. Their excuse for erasing the record temperatures of the past is that the thermometers were not housed properly. But that claim isn't true. This was reported in the Argus about the record temperature at Mildura in 1906 of 123 degrees Fahrenheit. Officials at the observatory rely on the records reported to them. The thermometers are supplied from the observatory and are reliable instruments, and the screens and other devices by means of which the shade is produced are the same as those in use at the observatory itself. There was nothing wrong with the thermometer readings, it's just that the hot temperatures of the past wrecked their climate scam, so they erased them. To put this in perspective, it was reported in 2013 that Sydney had reached their all-time temperature record. And the thermometer they used to record this was at Observatory Hill, immediately adjacent to 20 lanes of asphalt. This is a complete joke. They reject good temperatures from the past and use worthless temperatures from today. This is how it was reported. The temperature smashed the previous hottest recorded temperature, peaking at 45.8 degrees Celsius. The old record of 45.3 was set in 1939. Next to all this asphalt, it was half a degree warmer than 1939 and was reported as an historic day. We haven't seen a day like this in Sydney's recorded history. So let's take a look at what was going on in January 1939. It was the hottest day on record in Adelaide, Canberra, and Melbourne. Besides the record heat, there were massive bushfires in Victoria, which brought koalas to the edge of extinction. Hundreds flee from sweeping bushfire peril. Most of the forest land in Victoria burned during January 1939. There was also the record heat wave of 1896 in Australia, which the New York Times reported as the hottest of hot waves on record. Temperatures in Burke, New South Wales in the shade were 121 degrees. Burke, New South Wales had 21 consecutive days over 105 degrees Fahrenheit during January 1896. They averaged 115 degrees during that period and peaked at over 119 degrees on several days. The January heatwave of 1896 may have been the worst on record in southeast and eastern Australia. There were bushfires, disease, and heat deaths all over the territory. A similar heat wave occurred during 1878. It was 122 degrees at Burke. Minnesota had no winter that year at all. There was a global heat wave and drought in 1878, which killed tens of millions of people around the world. And a similar disaster actually occurred in 1896 as well. 70 years ago, CSIRO knew about the heat of the past in Australia. They knew that Australia was much hotter prior to 1910. But the Bureau of Meteorology has now erased all of the inconvenient temperatures prior to 1910 when Australia was much hotter. This graph shows all temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit at Alice Springs since 1878. You can see that Alice Springs used to get much hotter. It's the same story at Burke and at Mildura. The past was much hotter in Australia. Unlike the urban heat island contaminated temperatures at Sydney now, the record temperatures at Mildura were recorded on a good thermometer and were well documented. In 1790, Sydney received no rain during the winter, and in 1791 it was so hot that birds dropped dead from the trees. I don't think that poorly housed thermometers cause birds to drop dead or for the rain to not fall all winter. Government climate agencies in many countries are run by charlatans who are trying to get people to give up their reliable supply of fuels and energy. The climate scam has nothing to do with climate. It's about control of the energy and food supplies. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this massive deception for more than 15 years. You can visit him and his family on the web at realclimatescience.com.